So I basically realized that if we lack a sense of significant meaning in our life, it's probably because we're chasing the wrong things. What we think we want is happiness, but I don't think that's necessarily true. Instead, I think what we really want is to have an adventure. Because all of us, no matter who we are, where we are in the world and what we're interested in, we pretty much want the same thing fundamentally. We want the freedom to pursue our unique path. But we spend so much of our lives ignoring the significant signals that lure us into the correct path we should follow. We settle, right? We conform to comfort, we prefer stability, and we prefer to align ourselves with the expectations of the society and the social circles around us. But when we do that, when we live that life, our only sources of happiness are shit, right? They're transient and momentary and meaningless. It's the things like impulsive pleasure, materialism, right, consumerism and stimulation, and our lives are then devoid of the meaning that we so deeply desire. But it's so confusing and complex, isn't it, right? For a start, how do you know where your path is amongst all the noise of the external world? And if you did know what your path is, how would you even incorporate it into your life and actually follow it actionably? That's why I'm making this video. I'm trying to figure out and outline a clear solution to this problem for myself, and I'm sharing with you what I've learned. So it was my 20th birthday the other day, and one of my closest friends sent me this diagram and this explanation of Joseph Campbell's theory of the hero's journey. And I realized as I was reading and going through this that it was the closest thing that I've found so far to an articulated explanation of what I feel I actually want from life. Because if we're lucky enough, when it comes to our birthdays, we're asked the question, oh, what do you want for your birthday? And this year, more than anything, I realized that I don't want things. I don't want material possessions or resources. I just want the freedom to live out my own adventure. I want the freedom to perceive and act in the world, to be, to grow, or in this specific case, and for the case of this video, I want the freedom to embark on the hero's journey. Embarking on the hero's journey means adopting the universal narrative pattern of the hero in the way that I view and behave in my life. I am the hero, the main character, and I am on some sort of quest or series of quests towards something that's ultimately good. And in that process, I experience huge personal transformation and accrue wisdom that I can share with my family and my community to be a source of positivity in the world. And I think this is what psychologist Abraham Maslow was really talking about with his idea of self-actualization. This means gradually becoming the version of you that you are supposed to be, right? The best version of yourself out in the world. This is personal mastery. And I think, right, for genuine meaning and fulfillment in life, this is what we should really be chasing. So let's expand on Joseph Campbell's ideas, right? Let's turn this diagram, turn this concept into 5 actionable steps we can use to change the way we view and act in the world. The first step is to pay attention, because the beginning of the hero's journey is the call to adventure, and we have to be in the correct psychological or spiritual state to receive the signals that call upon us to go on the adventure of our lives. Because it is in the nature of life to put opportunities in front of you. At face value, they may seem uncomfortable and nerve-wracking, but there are things that catch your attention as something that you could do that would induce a level of growth and be a good experience for you. Let's say a new leadership opportunity opens up in work or school. Well, why not apply for it? Or you have a spark of inspiration one time randomly in the night for a new business idea or a new creative project that you want to start. Well, why not put some of that into some action? Because all the things that I feel blessed to do now, the professional sports career that I'm at the beginning of, the process of acquiring knowledge that I'm truly interested in, and all the relationships that I enjoy being a part of now are because I followed some sort of call to adventure that wasn't necessarily always comfortable. I made myself go to training sessions where I knew I was the shittest player there, and I felt that feeling of insufficiency deeply, right? And I made myself take opportunities to publicly talk about the things I'm interested about, despite the anxiety and the fear, and despite the criticism and the mocking from my peers. So pay attention, because when an adventure calls to be a hero, we must be ready to follow it. And once the call to adventure comes, we must be willing to reach and then surpass the threshold between the known and the unknown. Most people spend their lives never even looking over that edge, right? Because it's terrifying to imagine what your life could be if you left the life you currently know now. But in order to transform yourself, you have to leave the known. It is only in the unknown, outside the comfort zone, where you change and grow. Because transformation is a process of adaptation to new environments, and you aren't adapting if you're in the safety of what you've always done. One saying is, we shouldn't fear fear. We shouldn't be scared to enter into things that we don't fully know how to do, right? We shouldn't be scared to just throw ourselves into some discomfort and figure it out and grow along the way. Because I think fundamentally you have this choice: confront the unknown or shy away from it. And you may not realize it, but you make this choice every single day of your life. Procrastination is just a manifestation of the fear of the unknown. So is anxiety. So is laziness. But what I've personally learned about the fear of discomfort is that it doesn't just go away. Discomfort doesn't just go away if you avoid it, right? It lingers. If anything, it gets bigger and grows the more that you ignore it. So what we have to do, essentially, is understand that the only way out is through. We can't stop running from the things we're afraid of. Instead, we have to turn around and confront the demons of uncertainty and the opportunities that might be difficult, but will probably lead to personal growth. Because the great psychoanalyst Carl Jung has this quote, and every time I hear it, it shakes me to the core. That which you most want to find is where you least want to look. Because over the past year, everything in my life has changed. I moved to London, I transferred to a different university, I now play for a higher level basketball team. Pretty much all my social circles have changed quite drastically. And you know what? At times, it's been pretty uncomfortable. But I know that I felt a call to adventure, and I know that I couldn't ignore it. If you want to be a hero in your life and live out some kind of adventure, then you have to be consciously willing to step over the threshold and move into the unknown. So you're in the unknown, right? You followed the call to adventure, and now this is where the real work begins. There will be many challenges and many temptations in front of you. Now these are going to be very specific to the details of your adventure and your life, so we need to define them pretty broadly. A challenge is a test of your character. Something difficult but worthwhile, an obstacle that stands in your path that must be overcome. You can see this on the micro level of the behaviors and habits that you have to do on a daily basis, but then bigger than that, you can see it on the macro scale of the new job or the new skill you want to develop. Whereas a temptation is the product of our proclivity to give up when we face challenges. These are the desirable distractions that can lead us off our path, the natural force of the human mind pulling us back to what we know. This is the doubtful inner voice, the constant negative chattering in your skull, or it's the shiny new opportunity that seems easier or more comfortable, or it's your drive to put less effort into what you do, or the constant distractions that dance on the side of your path, pulling you away from the straight and narrow. All of these are temptations that the hero must grapple with. But the challenges, big and small, when overcome through persistence and work, and the temptations when resisted through self-control, that is what actually moves you along the path to where you want to go. That's where the work is done. For my current adventure, the challenges are the difficult training sessions and the need to perform in high-pressure environments where I'm not that confident, or the cognitive work I have to do despite resistance and procrastination, or the conversations I have to have with myself and others that are uncomfortable because they address the areas where I'm going wrong. But at the end of the month, right, when I look back upon the challenges I've overcome, on all the daily incremental wins, I can see the development in my skills and the way that I've improved how I look and perceive the world. You know, I stared at the ceiling many times at night, questioning whether what I'm doing is right, listening to that self-doubting inner voice, wishing that I could just sack it all in and pick an easier pursuit. But when I take some time to reflect and see the bigger picture, I realize that I am happier with who I am and the nature of my life when I continue to confront the work that I need to do on myself. And you can now probably think of the challenges, big and small, that will appear on your path. And if you reflect, you can probably think about some temptations that might lure you off the journey to where you want to go. But again, we come back to a choice. The opportunities to make progress will be there, and they will either get done or they won't. You'll confront the challenge or hide from it, approach or avoid. And I don't have to remind you which one the hero chooses. Now, one of the most beautiful things about this process of self-growth is the next stage that involves revelations, death, rebirth, and transformation. Because when you try hard towards some sort of meaningful adventure that you're acting out, who you are and the way you interpret reality will change and shift dramatically. Like a phoenix, right? Your old self will go up in flames and your new self will rise from the ashes. From my own experience, right, the more that I've overcome challenges and addressed my insufficiencies and improved as an individual, the more my perspective on reality and my idea of what truly matters has a higher and higher resolution, right? There's more and more clarity around those things. And it's at this point where you reap the rewards and experience the feeling of maximal meaning in life. You have actualized a new dimension of yourself that was previously just potential. You've come to believe that there is more to what you are capable of than you previously thought. And I remember this feeling vividly when I went back to college after taking a year out from school due to mental health, specifically social anxiety, which was through the roof for me at this point. But I somehow, for some reason, right, at the time, it wasn't consciously articulated. I was just following what I felt was right. I followed the adventure that called upon me. I took opportunities to be in school plays, and I took student leadership opportunities and took the chances to do my own assemblies. And from that boy who was so socially anxious that he couldn't really leave his own bedroom, I went to a guy who was able to act and present in front of a few hundred people and not really even be that worried about it. And that was over the process of maybe 18 months. And when you look back on a journey like that, on yourself in retrospect, I don't think there's any greater feeling really, because it's deeper than happiness. And now, once you're comfortable with your current adventure, you return to the known. The hero returns back to the village with new wisdom from the challenges that he has overcome. You now have a unique perspective and unique value to offer the world through what you've been through. But the most important part of this final section is to remember not to settle, because your life will probably now have significantly improved because of the self-work you've done, the challenges you've overcome, and as a consequence, there will be this inclination to now stay in the improved, known territory forever. But settling in the known leads to spiritual stagnation. That's not what the human mind or the human soul really thrives on. Of course, life will be different as time passes and you go into different ages and stages. But as a hero, right, if you adopt this narrative in the way you look at and behave in your world, then you will always have calls to adventure, pulling you back into the unknown. There will always be new paths to follow. And you always have to stay ready and willing to then follow them. Because this diagram is structured very, very purposefully, right? It's a cycle, it's cyclical, right? It has no endpoint. The hero's journey is a constant movement into the unknown, to face challenges and resist temptations, to undergo further personal transformation, then return with new wisdom and offer value to the community, to then be ready to follow the next adventure. And if you do that for the rest of your life, which I'm going to try and do, then I think, and this is just my personal opinion, but if you've watched as much of this video, you probably agree, that is when you live the closest thing to the optimal human experience. You chase meaning and fulfillment and personal mastery over transient, momentary happiness. You become a hero to your loved ones, to the wider world, but most importantly, to yourself. Carl Jung once said that everybody acts out a myth, but very few people know what their myth is. And you should know what your myth is because it might be a tragedy, and maybe you don't want it to be. The psychological blueprint that I've outlined in this video is, in my opinion, the way we can avoid acting out that tragedy. It's a way to consciously rewrite the myth that you're living out. It's a way to be the hero of your own life. Thank you for watching.
Joel Clifton, yeah, please sub and comment and like. But on a serious note, the content is very good. It makes you think about yourself and your life differently.